quick episode recap. Over time, the slimes that Tia initially brought back for filtering purposes quickly increased in number. As they propagated, they started to diversify and come in all sorts of colors and properties. This became an issue when one day, a lone slime committed a severe crime. It drank an entire barrel of wine by itself. Everyone considers the wine as something very precious, but for it to be wasted on a slime, the girls were furious. They deemed the slime guilty of all charges, and proceeded to list many cruel and unusual punishments for the slime to suffer through for its actions. Hiraku tries to persuade them otherwise, but it is only with the support of Florem, who tells them that slimes likely have no self-awareness, that the harem backs off on the issue. Since then, the slime would frequently make its appearance when drinking was involved during feasts and celebrations. Luckily, there's only one, or else it'd be a problem. Autumn has come, and Hiraku ponders on the nice weather after his hard day of work. Now that he's hungry, he prepares a nice hot pot for everyone to enjoy. The new members, Senna and Lasti, also get to enjoy Hiraku's cooking. Everyone was happily eating, but are silenced when Hiraku casually comments that the hot pot would have been even better if they could have added seafood. They immediately ask for clarification, and Hiraku quickly lists a bunch of seafood products that could be used, along with some konbu seaweed for broth. Everyone gets fired up at the prospects of delicious food, and tries to understand what Hiraku listed. Many of them misunderstand that what he mentioned are the names of some terrifying sea creatures, when in reality, they are relatively harmless fish. Rue and Flora try their best to look into these unknown creatures to no avail. Luckily, Florem has a good head on her shoulders, and she explains that there exists a port city south of the village that they could visit to know more about the products Hiraku is looking for. Now with a direction, Lasti volunteers to fly Florem to the city to acquire help from a merchant she knows. Flora and Rue stay back to continue the research on Niso. Everyone is a hardcore foodie, and they unite to have Hiraku beat the meat. They return 3 days later with Michael Gorin, the president of a merchant company in the port city of Shishido. He is happy to make connections with the village, and offer up his fish he brought to commence a trade. Understanding Hiraku's interest in konbu, Michael explains that his fishermen usually throw it away, but would have them quickly prepare some for his use. He is interested in continuing to trade with them and requests to be the merchant in charge of trade for the village. In particular, he is very interested in the unique crops that Hiraku has planted, and wishes to invest in their business by helping distribute them. Rue and Tia step forward to continue the negotiations with him as he explains more about his own business trade products to them. After coming to an agreement, Michael prepares to leave, but before he does, he mentions wanting to trade some of the alcohol. Everyone compliments his transparency, and looks forward to working with him in the future. Even better was that despite all the powerful beings around him, Michael maintained a calm composure throughout his stay. How professional. A flashback to 3 days earlier, around the time Lasti and Florem arrived at Shishido City, Michael is informed by his subordinate that visitors insist on meeting him for business. He intended to decline as they had no appointment, but his intuition tells him that he shouldn't ignore them and decides to meet them instead. Welcoming their arrival, he notes that his intuition had saved his life. He is well acquainted with Florem and her family, but upon being introduced to Lasti, the crazy dragon, he realizes just how dangerous the situation is. But upon seeing the variety of fruit the girls wish to trade, Michael immediately changes his tune. This is because any one of these fruits are high-demand items that can be sold for an exorbitant price. Immediately, the benefits outweigh the risks. Lasti can finally find the chanko she is looking for, and the girls celebrate. Michael excitedly states he wishes to take part in the first delivery himself, but upon hearing that their destination is the Forest of Death, the risks came back. The journey to and fro was fraught with many dangers, and he had the misfortune of seeing many powerful beings that scared the bejesus out of him, but he survived. With the seafood at hand, Hiraku feeds his harem his meat as they all stare at it in wonder.
It's another day, and Zabuton suddenly rings the alarm once again. And once again, it's an attack from yet another dragon.
This time, however, the dragon seems to be taunting Hiraku as it hovers in the sky, twerking its tail in the air. It had already faced the three angels, but of course they were not its opponent. It even fires an attack into the distance, and this prompts Hiraku to act as he summons his spear, only for it to casually dodge. It didn't expect the next throw, however, and he manages to strike it down. When he and the wolves head over to investigate, they are met with a pretty female. While she jokingly stumbles to come up with an explanation, Drime appears to explain that she is his older sister, Hakuren. She reveals that Drime wanted to marry Lasty off to the mayor, and she essentially came to vent her jealousy, as she's heard Hiraku is very strong. She and Lasty is 900 years apart in age, but the fact that Lasty is already further along in life than she is, triggered her. After understanding the circumstances, Hiraku also gets triggered as she's caused trouble for others at her expense, and he punishes the bad girl.
Drime also denies marrying Lasty to Hiraku as he might have said it while drunk.
With that fiasco over, Hakuren gets to enjoy a good meal with Drime as he brags about his frequent visits. Lasty approaches Hiraku and apologizes for Hakuren and her nonsensical actions that offended him, but she almost offends Hakuren in the process. After having her fill, Hakuren became interested in the games the village has to offer, in particular, Mahjong. She wanted to win against Hiraku in particular after her earlier defeat. To make it interesting, she wants to make bets, but instead, Hiraku mentions getting naked as a punishment for losing, and everyone is down to play. The dragons are competitive creatures, so they are very interested in seeing each other humiliated. It's an intense atmosphere, and the dragons are very invested in the moment, and Hiraku very much regrets playing with them. He's forgotten that the dragon race is known for their intelligence, and Hakuren, who started playing without even knowing the rules, has yet to have lost once. Hiraku considers that they are cheating using magic or some special ability, but in fact, they are actually playing very casually, and he just sucks at games. He makes his final stand, but it's just not enough, and he loses once more. This loss is another reminder of his painful past, and it's unfortunate that all he has left to take off is his boxers. I'm sure all the girls have already seen him naked many times, but with Hakuren instigating a crowd, he has no choice. Ever since then, Hakuren has decided to live in the village, so Hiraku tries to assign her a job. But all she wants to do is laze around and complains about everything she is asked to do. Despite this, she is actually very skilled at anything she is told to do, but seeing her unwilling, Hiraku has her work the land as a dragon, having her dig and refill holes until she gave up resistance. Hakuren settled on teaching the basic subjects to the next generation of kids as a school teacher. It's another day, and several Lamia girls come to the village bearing treasures. They are a warrior race that live in caves, but the fact that they came asking for peace confused Hiraku. It turns out that the wolves and spiders recently raided the caves, and helpless to the attacks, the Lamias could only seek asylum from the village. Hiraku decided to start trade with the Lamias, and exchange the mine gems for quality food from the harvest instead. The girls happily declared they would do anything he wanted. New harem acquired? He requests that they cover their chests with clothes when they visit the village, instead of crawling around naked. And so gradually, there was an increased activity in trade from both the Lamias and the rest of the world through Michael, and Hiraku decided to expand their fields once more. In the Demon King's castle, word has reached the generals that Hakuren now resides in the village. The military might now easily surpasses their country, and everyone worries how to proceed. At this point, Randon has already resigned from the stress, and Galgardo, the demon lord, has stepped in his place. However, he's more distracted about his daughter not talking to him recently than on the immediate issue. His daughter, Yuri, is having a meeting of her own with her subordinates. They believe the village is gathering power for an evil plot and are holding Florem hostage. Yuri decides to take action to quickly save Florem.
あの村を攻め落とし、フラウレムを取り返すのです。